So first of all, I thought I would tell you really quickly a little bit about Landis & Gyr. I'm not sure how familiar everyone is. We are a global company who are headquartered in Switzerland, and we've been in the business of acquiring, building, and integrating energy management and energy products companies for the last 10 years or so. So about $1 billion and 12 acquisitions later, Landis & Gyr offers an end-to-end system of smart metering, and I will use that term as opposed to smart grid, but end-to-end system solutions that include everything from gas, water, and electricity meters to wireless networks, load management solutions, demand-side management products, and then here in North America, we do some other unique activities where we manage the wireless infrastructure and smart metering network for probably 12 million plus electric, water, and gas endpoints in North America for about 14 different utilities. So we're in the business of making products that enable the smart grid through smart metering and distribution automation, and we also have a lot of experience understanding what it means to run a smart metering and smart grid instance through our own operations. We're U.S. headquartered here in Atlanta in Alpharetta, Georgia, and we have a number of centers of excellence around the U.S., Lafayette, Indiana, Pequot Lakes, Minnesota. We have a large network operating center in Kansas City, and we have close to 1,000 people employed in the U.S. today. So that's just a quick update on who we are. And our perspective right now, and I think it fit really well with Professor Devon, is that smart metering and AMI is really kind of a foundational structure for driving momentum in smart grid and smart grid investments. It's a pretty daunting task when you look at all of the statistics and the slides and what decisions do we make, and do we do renewables or do we do PEV or where should we invest. A lot of our customers have said, let's start first things first. Let's start with what's in our span of control and really look at bringing intelligence and better information and better connectivity to what's close to home, kind of the meter to feeder and the distribution system and energy management to the home. So from our perspective, AMI is really a cornerstone to delivering this list of bullet points, but fundamentally you get better real-time information and real-time data, not just to your users, but to a sensor-enabled distribution system. You're able to interact on a two-way basis with your customers. So as much information as you're getting out of the grid, you can also give back to customers in terms of price signals, information about the kind of energy they're consuming, carbon footprint data. You can speak to them about demand-side management activities. This also enables a huge amount of day two applications and day two business intelligence. So the data we're collecting today through basic smart metering systems and basic distribution automation, and it's billions and billions of pieces of data, will let our customers do a tremendous amount of analysis to start to work on those grid performance improvements. We'll start to understand where energy is coming from and when energy is arriving and when energy is being used, so that they can do a better job of planning supply and demand, of ensuring that there's operational effectiveness within the grid, and that the programs that they offer to customers are effective. We can mine data in terms of how effective a demand response program is, and then use that data to refine, did I market to the right people? Did I put the right incentives in place? How many people responded? What did it really mean in terms of closing the supply and demand gap? And then last but not least, this technology will really start to enable the delivery of new forms of generation and integrating new technologies into the grid. So basic metrology and measurement capabilities and software and hardware that we do today just in the smart metering system is going to be the same kind of technology that we'll use to build out effective charging station technologies for PEVs, to be able to build out effective energy management for small-scale solar power or small and large-scale storage. So again, from our perspective, getting a foundation in AMI and driving AMI investments with utilities is a way for us to begin to realize a lot of the promises that the smart grid will deliver. So that sounds great. Why aren't we doing more of it? Why isn't everybody just going whole hog and building out smart metering networks and AMI systems? Well, there's another side to this coin, and it's making sure that all the motivations are in place. And this is when we were talking about pulling together our presentations, There was, well, what are the challenges that it would inhibit growth or would be something that we'd need to address to drive more jobs growth and drive more investment in this space? And I actually think it's a challenge and an opportunity, a balancing act. We heard a lot about kind of the dependence on foreign energy and a recognition that that's a concern for us and a recognition that we need to manage carbon constraints and use our resources effectively. So I would check that the motivations are there in the upper quadrant. But I think some of the other motivations need to be in line to create more natural incentives both for utilities and for suppliers and for consumers to motivate this industry even more. In particular, I think we need appropriate and positive regulatory support to drive and support utilities' investments in smart metering and smart grid. Today, in all regulatory areas, those incentives aren't always in place. Regulators need to be ready to support the utility investment. They need to be supportive of rate recovery, of full deployments, and furthermore of decoupling the return on investment to energy consumption and give utilities the freedom to be able to invest in technologies that may reduce consumption or change consumption behaviors. From a supplier perspective, I think we need to be thoughtful about standards evolution. And there's a huge momentum, as I heard in line today, there's people talking about standards. There's huge momentum for standards in this industry, but there's also a huge risk that we'll try to vanilla coat a particular technology solution. To motivate suppliers in the marketplace to invest and to create jobs, we need to have flexibility in how we implement technology and evolve embedded-based technologies today to be more intelligent. We do have some dumb assets, but we also have some more intelligent assets out there today who simply need better connectivity technologies and better systems so that they can communicate to each other. And then last but not least, we do need permanent consumer engagement. And I think that tide is starting to turn. I think if you look back a few years, we could probably, many of us, look at ourselves and say, well, you know, when was the last time I really engaged in my energy life, right? No, I turn off the lights when my bill's too high. I call direct power or whoever my power provider is when I have an issue. But I'm not engaged. I don't own my energy consumption, and I don't own my usage behavior. We have a responsibility as the data becomes more available to start to educate and inform consumers and get them truly engaged in managing their own experiences. So is that happening today? Absolutely. We have some fantastic examples, and these are some Landis and Gear examples, but there's a lot of other examples out there today with many other suppliers and utility companies. We are serving smart metering in rural America. It's one of the most important areas of business for Landis and Gear, serving rural electric cooperatives, serving municipality markets, and we have over 400 RECs with smart metering systems out there today serving between 6 and 8 million consumers. We've seen huge successes. The one notable success for our company has been with the state of Texas and Encore Electric Delivery, which is a huge transmission and distribution provider. We have over 625,000 smart meters installed in the market today, one of the smartest systems out there. They've had fantastic dialogue in a really complex and deregulated energy market, whereby through regulatory support, the T&D provider cooperation and retail electric provider engagement, we are going to start delivering for the first time, I think, real-time pricing signals to customers. Every meter in the ground is home area networking capable, so we're connecting devices in the home, we're sending information to customers as well as collecting information from customers. So this is a huge change in terms of how metering systems are deployed. We also are starting to dabble in the world of grid automation. It's huge business for a lot of people in this space today, but now we're able to automate fault detection and isolation and really diminish the amount of downtime for consumers. And we're also looking at ways through volt-var applications of managing how energy flows into the grid and making that more effective. So there's a lot of momentum going on today. The stimulus dollars is just a piece of the puzzle. Jobs growth is clearly a part of it. Landis & Gear's employee base has grown about 10% just in this last year, and in a down economy and in a place where we have 10% unemployment, I think it's going to be great to see continued investment in jobs and green jobs. Most of the jobs that we expect to see in our business in the coming year are really going to be around high-tech sustainable positions, engineering, marketing, product management, integration and deployment expertise. So for us, we see this as just a huge momentum building. And what we'd really love to see are all these factors coming together in balance and continuing to propel the industry forward. Thank you.
Good morning. Appreciate the invitation by Jeff Pratt of Oglethorpe Power to have me here today to talk to you from the distribution side of things, I guess where the electron hits the consumer, about how smart grid is working for us. I'll have to say, Michelle, I was comforted by your red and black as a Bulldog. I can just say thank God for Georgia Tech and Auburn. No offense. Well, yeah, I intended to be offensive. Excuse me. Flint Energies is an electric membership cooperative that basically covers 17 counties between Macon and, Warner Robins and Columbus. Cover about 80,000 meters, the 8th largest EMC in Georgia, the 38th largest in the nation. I'm here today, I guess, to talk to you from very briefly about the distribution side of things and how we seek to find out, does all this stuff work? And is it making an impact on the consumer about how they really react to the information that's involved? And specifically why I'm here is to talk about how we're engaged directly in the American Reinvestment and Recovery Act, and made claim to a part of the funds that come out of the demonstration project budget. You know, there are two buckets: the investment projects, which Georgia Power and Georgia System Operations and some others in Georgia are involved in, and then there's the demonstration project side. There's a very much smaller bucket that we fall out under, actually under our national association in the R&D arm of the National Rural Electrification Association, the Cooperative Research Network. They came together and put together a nationwide project of 27 cooperatives in 11 states, from Georgia to Wisconsin to Hawaii, to put together a single package. And each of us are going to take an individual look at the smart grid and actually put it to work and try to develop the system, and say at the very end, say, does it work? What is needed to make it work? And what is needed to actually achieve the ultimate goals of the smart grid, which is to displace some of this future generation and to fill in one of those circles that we were looking at earlier. There are 27 EMCs in 11 states, about 4.5 to 5 years to deploy the system. It's a $68 million proposal, half of which will be funded by the Department of Energy. We did receive notice on November 24th that it was approved, and we get to take the next step and actually negotiate with the Department of Energy on a contract to carry it out. For Flint's part of that, we're going to build on the automated metering infrastructure that we started in 2004 and finish deploying smart meters, initiate an end-to-end communication system from our generation providers all the way to the consumer's home, install demand-side management and efficiency devices, smart appliances, actually using the GE hybrid water heater and GE appliances. Thought I'd throw that in. Pay me later. Before we ever get to this project, we're going to be using Landis and Gear meters. And then we'd appreciate a discount. But all in all, our project is $10.5 million, of which DOE will fund approximately half of that. Again, we're building on a system we've had in place. Like we said earlier, this is all old technology and old concepts. Between 1981 and 1995, Flint actually ran, like most electric utilities, ran a load management program. Stopped that in 1995. It was an old, very dumb system. Send out a radio signal, hope the switch works. You look at your load and it starts coming down, say some of them must be working. So we stopped that because of the price of power and so forth, but started it back up in 2004, built on a power line carrier system, the Aclara TWAC system that you may be familiar with. It is a load control peak shaving system that reaches out and switches off HVAC units and hot water heaters and so forth. So we said we see where the world's going. We don't quite understand all the pieces of the smart grid and how it may work for us, but we've got this AMI system that we're building. Why not take advantage of it? In fact, on the current system of deploying our smart meters, it would be 2019 if we stayed on the same pace we have right now before we were fully deployed, because we were trying to take advantage of the system we had just finished deploying in 2003. So the smart grid opportunity came along, and we said, well, let's see if we can grab a part of that to better develop it for the benefit of our members and our consumers. So basically, we said we want to create, or at least test, an end-to-end connected smart grid to see the effectiveness, what works, how does the system work together, and so forth. So that was our old system. This is our new system. The red items are what we propose to build in this process, and it pretty much relates to getting the information from our generation sources, which is going to be a challenge because we have 6 different power providers, and consolidating that data is going to be tough. And we're only saying we're going to initiate that because that may be the toughest part of it all because of confidentiality agreements and things like that. But being able to deliver that to the consumer's home through our power line carrier system in one path, to be able to deliver to the Landis and Gear meter with Zigbee technology to communicate with the in-home devices, and then also to go through the internet to to deliver that information directly to the consumer wherever they want it, where they have internet access, and also potentially have the ability to control those devices based on the usage they see and the dashboard that they see, be able to control some of the uses from their PC. We also want to integrate with other in-home or third-party devices, and so the demonstration here is, first of all, how do we put these pieces together? Will they talk to each other? Will it be secure? Will it actually get to the consumer in a way that's effective? But more importantly, is that consumer going to do anything with it? Is it going to really make a difference? So what we seek to get out of this is to quantify the demand response of in-home use of the impact of the information on the consumer. Is it acceptable? Is it effective? Is it economical? We want to validate the functionality of all these smart systems and how they talk together. Actually, part of the agreement with the government is that we will write the code in conjunction with our cooperative research network to make these parts talk together, in addition to being secure, and that's really a part that CRN will play is ensuring the cybersecurity of it all. And then, as Ivan said earlier, share. One thing that's hard for us to accept going into a demonstration project is it may fail, and our folks don't like failure. But that's an acceptable solution at the end of this. But why did it fail? And learning from that, and to say what pieces and what things can we do better to make it effective and to deliver that information to the end user so they will actually take action. So between the demonstration projects that will be involved in the cooperative world and the other 31 demonstration projects that are out there, we plan to share and learn and build on the infrastructure that we're going to put in place. Also, the investment projects, and I mentioned earlier, obviously, Southern Company has a huge project covering several states that I'm sure we're going to hear about, but also Georgia System Operations has a project that we'll integrate directly in as our scheduling agent and individual for all of the 39 cooperatives of Georgia. Cobb EMC and Tri-State Electric also have investment projects. So we also have additional in-house projects. And so we're all about this. We want it to work. We're moving forward, but we're fully intent on reaching out to the others in this to say what does work and how to make it effective, to say that the smart grid is the right way to go, and it will start filling in some of these Yep, so that we won't have to use everything for energy and food in the future. Have somewhere to go. Anyway, thank you. Look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much for inviting me to be with you today here in Atlanta, Georgia, my favorite city anywhere. If you didn't realize how nice it is here, I've been in Denver the last 3 days where the high was 4. So it's pretty darn nice here. I want to talk with you for a few minutes about Lockheed Martin and what some of the utilities that we're partnering with in the smart grid do. But I'd like to take just a little bit of time and tell you what Lockheed Martin is doing in energy, because although we knew we made smart planes, we didn't realize until recently that we apparently have a stealth energy policy because nobody knows we do it. Lockheed Martin is one of the large players in concentrated solar systems for utilities. Lockheed Martin has a 1 million square foot biomass plant. We are by far the largest producer of carbon nanotubes for energy, which will allow us to make 10-meter tubes to operate in our new ocean thermal conversion plants, of which we have the only working one in the world. We're also using carbon nanotube technologies to make batteries that would normally be the size of that table, the size of a brick, which we think will be material in making solar and wind and some other intermittent technologies a lot more workable and usable. And I'm sure you're thinking ahead, well, yeah, the cars too. So we're excited about energy. The part of the effort that I'm engaged in is the smart grid. And as you look at the smart grid, you have to balance the goals and needs of the smart grid from a technology standpoint, which include end-to-end security. If this stuff is not secure, if we have big incidents where somebody playing around or some nation state who doesn't like us very much shuts off all the power in a city, it'll inevitably and inexorably delay the deployment of smart grid, maybe for years. And as you know, you don't do security as a bolt-on at the end. You have to plan it and engage it at every level in all of the diagrams we've seen from all the other presenters from the very beginning and through the whole life cycle. Interoperability is a tough problem that needs to be solved. The average transformer and substation in the United States is 50 years old. And you're going to bolt that on to leading edge or maybe a couple days beyond the leading edge technology that's being built and designed by companies that didn't exist 5 years ago. These systems have to be scalable. We have worked with one utility already who engaged in a more than 1 million home smart meter project, only to find that at about 100,000 homes, their network systems were so congested that they could no longer do the activities that they had planned to do. And we're using some advanced tools like modeling and simulation to help solve those problems and allow them to deal with that level of risk. Renewables, of course renewables, but renewables come with their own problems. And we were talking with Xcel Energy last week, and they said their biggest problem is solar, because as the sun goes over the collectors, the energy spikes up and down in a way that they simply can't live with or control. And as yet, there are not utility-grade storage systems that can absorb that much energy on a peaking basis and let it out at the level and the quality that we all need. So this is a high priority. And as you no doubt know, $150 million was specifically set aside in the AAR grant programs for utility-grade storage. And a lot of very competent and well-skilled companies and academic institutions are working on that area. But when you start talking about the grant programs, you and I just spent, my wallet still hurts just a little bit, about $4.5 billion in direct grants, and it was matched to bring it to a total of $8.1 billion to be spent by utilities to enable smart grid functionality. And the reason that it was spent was partly because we'd all like to have a much more powerful grid, but it was primarily to create jobs and to protect our national security. If you're going to engage in grant programs, I'm suggesting to you, as the largest government contractor in the world, that you focus on what the grants are all about. Several of the companies that we work with were disappointed And most companies were disappointed. Only 1/4 of the companies that submitted for funding were granted funds, that they didn't receive funds. And when we looked after the fact at their submissions, it didn't talk about climate protection, it didn't talk about jobs, it didn't talk about national security, and they weren't awarded the funds. So as you, as business leaders who may want to engage in that process down the road, because we're not done yet, you want to keep that in mind. One of the topics that we were asked to talk about is, well, what are people doing? And here are a few that we're doing. PSE&G, which provides most of the power for the state of New Jersey, is building a tremendously powerful secure distribution network. They're working with some leading edge technology from Schweitzer Engineering Labs, some fiber optic network technology, some new switches from Cisco, who's a big player in the smart grid, as you probably know. They've been able to demonstrate already at 2 of their substations, and they're investing hundreds of millions of dollars to expand this through their network, that they can reduce outages by 92%, and that they can improve restoral time by 88% for the outages that do occur. And this was already one of the most reliable electric power systems in the country. PPL, which is in Allentown, Pennsylvania, had already installed 100% AMR meters. And so they're going back up into the substation in the distribution network, and we're partnering there with GE, another plug for you, Anthony, with GE and with Alcatel-Lucent to help them build a fully secure system that will allow them to once again use powerful control technologies they invented 5 years ago, but which the NERC-CIP guidelines did not allow them to use for security reasons. So back to the future, I guess. The most powerful one that we're engaged in is a project with AEP, American Electric Power. It's a $150 million project in Columbus, Ohio, to create Smart Grid Columbus. But as part of that, we're partnering them to build the first ever real-time cybersecurity operations center that's ever been built. We're excited about it. We hope that it will proliferate around the country to other major utilities. But one of the new business models that is falling out of that is that for the 3,100 utilities that can't possibly afford to have a cybersecurity operations center, we believe we'll be able to extend that down to the meter and sell it to them by the drink, which would allow people to have fully secure systems at a tiny fraction of the cost. Now, you probably think, when you think about smart grid, you think of big companies, Southern Company, certainly a leader, Duke a leader, but a lot of the small, innovative utilities are leading the charge in smart grid. And we're working with NRECA, with APPA, and some of the other leading associations there, but particularly with some great small companies like Rappahannock Power, which is already doing a company-wide AMI deployment and providing end-to-end lifecycle cybersecurity. Real quickly, where does Georgia fit in this? Georgia ought to be a leader in the smart grid. Georgia revolutionized telecommunications 20 years ago, and it has exactly the same resources and exactly the same kind of people to bring to the smart grid, and I urge you to do that. First of all, you have some of the, you somehow got, and I'm sure you earned them, a disproportionately large share of the DOE grants. You were one of the highest, one of the states with the highest number of grants awarded. You have leading edge universities here. Now we're partnering with Penn State, with Carnegie Mellon, with the University of Illinois, with Rice, with Arizona State, and with MIT to do funded energy projects. We need to hear Georgia in there somewhere. You need to be engaging with companies like Lockheed that are active in the energy industry and getting a piece of that pie. There are, certainly some significant DoD facilities in the state. Dobbins Air Force Base and the businesses around that, including our own, all the activities at Warner Robins. The military is leading the way in energy in this country. We had a meeting last week where we had a gentleman come in from the Navy. He took 10 minutes just reading, one after the other, all the initiatives that the Navy has in the energy space. They're well ahead of nearly any state or any other agency or entity in doing that. And frankly, we're here. We have tens of thousands of people who work in the Atlanta metropolitan area. We're excited about energy. We have 76,000 scientists and engineers. We have 32,000 IT professionals. We're looking for brilliant people all the time, and we urge you to think about how you might help us solve the energy problem. And we're looking for brilliant ideas. We engage with companies all the time, with Landis and Gear, with GE, and a lot of small companies where we see some exciting things happening. So thank you again for inviting me to Georgia, and I hope that I have lots of good reasons to come back and work with you in the future.